Hello everyone, this is Sorry and Target welcoming you back to another Carnivores ranked video, where today we are going to be ranking every dinosaur in the Carnivores 2 mod, Fallen Kings. Just like our other Carnivores ranked videos, we're going to include every dinosaur currently in the most recent beta release of Fallen Kings. In this case, the beta 1.95 release, but we're not including scrapped or unreleased dinosaurs like the Balur or Ornithochirus. Only the definitive dinosaurs the creator wants in the mod, and no map ambience, since they can't really be judged based on most of my criteria for these lists, like animations or sound work. And as we know, Fallen Kings is famous for its implementation of dinosaur variants, which sometimes includes entirely different species as opposed to a simple reskin. But for the sake of this video specifically, I'm still going to include each dinosaur's variant with the base dinosaur, just using the variants as additional support for each dinosaur's placement in the list, depending on how much the variant adds to or takes away from the dinosaur itself. And don't forget, as Fallen Kings receives updates and DLC, we'll update and adjust this list to see where each new dinosaur edition fits in. And as always, this list is purely my own subjective opinion. I've tried to be fairly objective in my reasonings, but I am human and not great at that, so be sure to let me know how you guys rank Fallen Kings dinosaurs down in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's begin with number 13. Starting off our list at unlucky number 13, we have the lumbering sauropod, Cardiodon. Okay, there are so few dinosaurs in the Carnivores universe that I actually hate. Most of them I love, pretty much all the rest of them I at least like, and the final, tiny fractional amount of them I, at worst, just don't really care for. But for me to actually, actively dislike a dinosaur, it has to be bad. And I'm afraid Cardiodon, holy crap is it bad. The model is ancient. I mean, this is from a time when the community had just figured out how to edit existing dinosaur models, and hundreds of edited dinosaur models got pumped out one after another, basically mass-produced, just to fill the quantity without much regard for quality. And this makes the Cardiodon feel super cheap. There's no emphasis on character or making this dinosaur feel distinct or unique. It's just a way too stretched out Brachiosaurus. I know people outside the community often criticize the Carnivores dinosaurs of looking ugly, and while I'd personally chalk that up to the low poly models as opposed to the actual dinosaur designs, I imagine what they see in the Carnivores dinosaurs is what I see in Cardiodon. I mean, this thing is hideous. It looks like it's constantly in pain as it waddles around in an endless circle. The animations are super stiff and distort the model horrifically. Basically, the only sounds it has are of it breathing, and the color scheme, I mean, it's just gray. Plain old boring gray. And not even like a rich or interesting gray, just like a desaturated gray. There is nothing about this dinosaur that I like. It's bland, it's boring, it's not pleasant or interesting to look at in the slightest. And what is this eating animation? My word! And unlike most Brachiosaurus AI animals, this thing doesn't just spawn in the water, it can spawn wherever. In a jungle, in a desert, on top of a freaking mountain, literally wherever. There is no escaping from it. I think it's pretty well known within the community that the Chasmosaurus is like, the dinosaur I'm known for disliking the most. But guys, I'd take the Chasmosaurus any day of the week over Cardiodon. Now, I know Cardiodon is getting a new model with a new design in a future beta release of Fallen Kings, and my word, I cannot wait for that update. But until then, in my opinion, Cardiodon earns its last place spot at number 13. Moving down to the number 12 spot, we have the penultimate predator on the Pristine Kingdom's hunting roster, Neovinator. So, full disclosure here, Fallen Kings' Neovenator has, like, almost no redeeming qualities for me personally. The model is, again, just an edit of a vanilla Carnivores dinosaur. It's stretched and contorted, it feels artificial and angular, the colors are washed out and dull and mostly gray. The animations are stiff and choppy, the sound work is either really subpar or just copy and pasted from the Ceratosaurus, which doesn't sync up with its new animations at all. There's just nothing about this Neovenator that I find appealing. And for the penultimate dinosaur on the hunting roster, that's really disappointing. I mean, this is the second to last huntable animal, the only thing standing between you and the mod's ultimate apex predator. And here it's just ugly and boring and bland. The only thing Neovenator really has over Cardiodon is that it is a huntable animal, so by default, its interaction with the player is more engaging. Now, Neovenator is getting a redesign in a future release of Fallen Kings, fittingly based on the Allosaurus from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. But I'm also not too big a fan of Fallen Kingdom's Allosaurus design, so we'll have to wait and see how the other factors like animations and sound work factor in. Although this redesigned Neovenator is getting like 4 brand new skin variations which look fantastic, so that should help it out. However, until that update comes, Neovenator remains a very unappealing dinosaur, and it comes in at number 12. Coming in at number 11, we have teeny little Giravenator. Oh, what's that? Never seen one? Well, we can remedy that right now. Let me adjust my microscope real quick. There you go, that little pixel right there is Giravenator. Giravenator is very much in the same camp as Cardiodon, as it comes from a time when the community was just pumping out model edits to fill the species quota as quickly as possible. It's a barely edited Allosaurus model, same texture and everything, hardly any custom sound work, its impact is basically non-existent, and like Cardiodon, its model is stretched and contorted and its animations are really janky. You know how when you put an animal on the wrong AI slot and watch it in-game, and everything is just super awkward and uncomfortable and looks and sounds and feels wrong? That's basically how Giravenator looks and acts all the time. It looks cheap, it feels cheap, and it's so tiny! Why is it so tiny? I can't even see it most of the time. All I hear are its constant little as it takes 400 steps a second. It's so annoying. The only real advantage it has over Cardiodon is A, it's not hideous to look at, mostly because you can't even see it, and B, it's so small that you can actually ignore it. Or at least, you know, you could if it didn't sound like it was running a marathon inside your eardrum. If you couldn't tell, I personally don't like this dinosaur in the slightest. If it's your favorite Carnivores dinosaur, I'm sorry, but Carnivores models and skins and animations have come such a long way since this thing debuted. So Giravenator comes in at number 11. Just breaking in the top 10, we have yet another ambient animal, the fleet-footed Hypsilophodon. Or at least you'd think Hypsilophodon would be fleet-footed, right?
Wrong!
For a dinosaur in a group well known for being fast on their feet, this Hypsilophodon might as well be made out of lead. Usually, whenever Carnivores puts a twist on an established dinosaur design, like making the Ceratosaurus gigantic or making the Spinosaurus really small in comparison to their Earth counterparts, they at least still retain the essence of what makes that dinosaur in the designs. Even if they don't look exactly like their Earth counterparts, which they shouldn't, this is an alien planet, they at least feel like them. You can look at those two and go, that's a Ceratosaurus, that's a Spinosaurus, because the designs still capture the dinosaur's essence. What about this is Hypsilophodon exactly? It just looks like a baby Iguanosaurus, which itself looks like a crestless Parasaurolophus. They all have the exact same texture and everything, just in different colors. In fact, I'm pretty sure this Hypsilophodon is completely unchanged from when it debuted in the extended canon mod. If we're going to put a unique spin on Hypsilophodon, I personally think Joseph Smith's lizard kangaroo restoration from 1894 would be way more unique and character driven. As it currently stands, Fallen Kings' Hypsilophodon isn't necessarily bad, but it looks generic, it sounds generic, it feels generic, and it comes in at number 10. Taking the number 9 spot, we have Nesodactylus, a pterosaur that actually has a couple of different variations, further adding to Fallen Kings' unique theme of dinosaur variants. I believe these are intended to be the male and female variants, with the smaller, green ones being the males, and the larger, tan ones being the females. Like the other creatures we've covered so far on this list, Nesodactylus is a model edit of an already existing Carnivores creature, I believe of the Dimorphodon, and while that does still make it feel a bit cheap, I think Nesodactylus pulls that trade off the best, so far anyway. You can very clearly see so much of the original dinosaurs in the model edits for Giravenator or Hypsilophodon, but if you didn't already know that Nesodactylus used Dimorphodon's model, it'd be pretty hard to tell where this thing came from. It's been stretched and tweaked to a point where it looks like its own creature, without going so overboard to the point that it's reached horrific lab experiment gone wrong. However, even with a couple of variants, their color schemes are pretty dull, and the flight animation appears to be sped up so much that they look like they're flying around in fast forward. But I do think Nesodactylus pulls off the edited vanilla model gimmick the best so far, and it is cool to see sexual dimorphism in Fallen Kings' pterosaurs too, so it comes in at number 9. Moving down to the number 8 spot, we have a Walking with Dinosaurs classic, Eustreptospondylus. Now to me, personally, Fallen Kings' Eustreptospondylus feels a lot like its Neovenator, just done, I can't say better, but slightly less worse. Again, it's just a vanilla Carnivores model that's been overly stretched out and contorted. The texture is literally the default Ceratosaurus's. The animations are stiff and wonky and awkward. The calls are just pitch-shifted Nanotyrannus calls, and to top it all off, the skin is just green and brown. It's the textbook definition of a generic theropod. There is nothing about it that I find unique or interesting. The only real advantage it has over the ambient animals is that it is huntable, and therefore provides a better interactive experience for the hunter. And I personally think it tops Neovenator, sadly, because it doesn't have any uncomfortably stiff idle animations, to further emphasize how much of an afterthought this dinosaur feels like. Its simplicity and bare bones nature actually saves it from extra degradation, but can't bump it up much farther on the list, so Eustreptospondylus comes in at number 8. Coming in at number 7, we have the single-horned ceratopsian Monoclonius. Now, full disclaimer, Monoclonius is a dinosaur that, in Fallen Kings specifically anyway, I'm not that big a fan of. Like Cardiodon, its color scheme is literally just gray. It's very obviously just an edited Chasmosaurus model, which again makes it feel pretty cheap and less unique. The only color is on its eye, and there's some spillover onto the dinosaur's face, and its animations are basically just eating and breathing. It doesn't even use its nose horn to dig around like the other ceratopsians do. Plus, nothing against Monoclonius itself, but when I think of the ceratopsians we haven't yet seen in well-established, story-based, total conversion canon-style mods, like Styracosaurus, Pachyrhinosaurus, Diabloceratops, or even Mojoceratops, Monoclonius just seems like a less exciting, less visually interesting choice of ceratopsian. Bundle all that together, and this dinosaur very much feels like an afterthought addition, thrown in just because the Triceratops AI slot needed to be filled quickly. But because of that, Monoclonius does feel like a very safe, neutral, middle ground choice, and I actually think that kinda works as a fairly solid pick. Because only the horns have really undergone some serious tweaking, the texture and model aren't that stretched at all. Even if bland, it still looks like a Carnivores dinosaur. The calls are nothing extraordinary, but are also pretty decent, utilizing a mixture of animal sounds that sound like what I'd imagine this Monoclonius would sound like. And it is an extremely aggressive dinosaur, which always makes hunting it risky and fun. Again, it does feel very basic and safe, but because so little risks were taken with this dinosaur, its safety actually kinda paid off, because it still looks like a fairly standard Carnivores dinosaur. So for that, Monoclonius takes the number 7 spot. Taking the number 6 spot, we have the massive Iguanosaurus, whose name literally translates to iguana lizard. Now, Iguanosaurus suffers from a lot of the same problems as Hypsilophodon. In fact, based on their appearances, Hypsilophodon looks like it could very well be just a baby Iguanosaurus. It's just the vanilla Parasaurolophus model without the crest. Same textures and everything. And don't even get me started on its calls. Also, I'm not exactly sure why it couldn't have just been Iguanodon. I mean, in the overarching story in which Fallen Kings has placed itself, I have yet to see Iguanodon appear on any mod's huntable roster, and it would be a very fitting addition given Fallen Kings' base premise of primarily European dinosaurs. And if it were just up to the base Iguanosaurus, this dinosaur would have found itself way farther back on this list, probably right around Hypsilophodon's spot. But the reason it's cracked the top 10 is because it is one of the 4 dinosaurs to utilize the dinosaur variance method discovered by Ornithomimid 1. So we have the base Iguanosaurus, but we also have a special variant, the Elder Iguanosaurus. Now, the dinosaur's model and texture and sound effects are keeping it lower on the list, but it's the Elder Iguanosaurus's actual existence and skin that helps bump it into the top 10 status. Most of the dinosaur skins in Fallen Kings are green, tan, or gray, but the Elder Iguanosaurus is a light purple magenta color with soft blue patternings and a dark burgundy head. These colors, I think, work beautifully together on such a large, peaceful dinosaur. And even though the Iguanosaurus is getting a wonderfully characterized overhaul in a future release, I do hope to see these colors return in some fashion. So for that, Iguanosaurus takes the number 6 spot. Breaking into the top 5, we have Camptosaurus, a dinosaur very similar in design and function to Iguanosaurus. So, in my opinion, Camptosaurus is pretty much on par with the Iguanosaurus. But I think Camptosaurus has a few details that it does slightly better than Iguanosaurus. Even though it too is just an edited Parasaurolophus model, it kinda strays away from the base para body build and adopts a slimmer, more horizontal posture with longer arms, shorter legs, and a long tail. It also actually has a different texture, sporting what looks like armor plating along its back, and its calls, while pretty basic, aren't just pig sounds. Camptosaurus isn't a very exciting dinosaur, and I'm not a big fan of its color scheme, but it at least takes a few extra steps to distance itself from its Parasaurolophus origins. So for that, it just edges out the Iguanosaurus at number 5. Honestly, if Camptosaurus still had the Para's base textures and a duller skin color, we would have an entire ontogeny line for Iguanosaurus. Or Iguanodontogeny line! I hate myself. Moving down to the number 4 spot, we have the apex predator of the Pristine Kingdom, Torvosaurus. Torvosaurus is actually a recent beneficiary of a newly designed model, upgrading from yet another generic, stretched out, gray model to a more characterized and interesting one. And for the mod's ultimate hunting challenge, I think Torvosaurus earns its spot as apex predator. The calls are explosive and ferocious. It looks large and menacing, the colors are intimidating yet naturalistic, and because it is on T-Rex AI, it's challenging yet fun to hunt. The only reason it's not top 3 status on this list is because the model is still a bit stretched in certain places, like around the eye and the arms, and its animations are pretty awkward and stiff. But beyond that, this is a solid dinosaur and a solid final huntable, so Torvosaurus comes in at number 4. Breaking into the top 3, we have Psittacosaurus, beautifully based on Burian's own depiction of the dinosaur. This Psittacosaurus was designed by Poerex, and originally, its color scheme was based more in line with Burian's painting. And I gotta be honest, I do prefer the original color scheme to the one that actually debuted in Fallen Kings. While it was nothing earth-shattering, I always found the burnt orange and sandy tan hide a nice contrast to the dinosaur's sharp green eyes. But now, it's kinda been dulled back down to just green and brown, with a sprinkling of yellow thrown in. I guess it does better fit the Pristine Kingdom's continuous theme of green dinosaurs, but I feel it lost a bit of its original charm in the translation. However, the Psittacosaurus does have some incredibly alien and haunting calls, and I freaking love them. I don't know if they really fit a dinosaur like Psittacosaurus, but using those calls are always a highlight of Psittacosaurus hunts, and were a genuine surprise the first time I used them. In addition, Psittacosaurus is one of 4 dinosaurs in Fallen Kings to have an alternate form in addition to the base variant, with this one being the parrot-themed variant, sporting a color scheme based on macaws. This is one of my favorite dinosaur variants and overall skins in the mod. The dark oranges harken back to Poerex's original skin colors, and the subtle greens and blues around the appendages provide a diverse and interesting color palette for the dinosaur. However, to me anyway, the colors do appear kinda harsh to look at. Like the saturation has been bumped up so high that everything appears really abrasive and garish. But that's a minor nitpick that I can easily overlook. As far as idle sounds and animations go, Psittacosaurus does leave a lot to be desired, and honestly, if its sound work and animations were better, it would probably swap places with the next dinosaur on this list. But regardless, it earns its spot as a top 3 dinosaur, and keeps the number 3 spot. Taking the penultimate spot at number 2 is the Pristine Kingdom's flagship, or I guess ex-flagship dinosaur, the big green super croc, Baryonyx. We've had quite a few attempts at a Baryonyx over the years in the Carnivores community, some better than others. But back in the day, whenever I imagined what the Carnivores version of Baryonyx would look like, I always imagined it big and quadrupedal, like so many old dinosaur books from my childhood depicted it. For a distant planet boasting alien creatures that resemble outdated Earth dinosaurs, a quadrupedal Baryonyx seemed too perfect a fit. A wonderfully unique build to help distance itself from the smaller, more agile Spinosaurus. And wow, am I glad that the official Carnivores Baryonyx ended up looking almost exactly like I imagined it. Design-wise, I think this Baryonyx is pretty perfect. Although the model itself is a bit stretched in some areas, particularly around the neck and the head and the arms, and green as a color choice is feeling a bit tired at this point, but in terms of general build, I think it's excellent. The calls are very nice, incorporating lots of deep alligator rumblings, and as a hyper-aggressive and bulky carnivore, this thing is a lot of fun to battle in the jungles of the Pristine Kingdom. Baryonyx is also one of the 4 dinosaurs in the mod to feature an alternate variant, this time as an entirely separate species of dinosaur, the Baryonychus. So, appearance-wise, Baryonychus is nothing to write home about. It's an old model again with tired green and an uninspired brown pattern laced with default Spinosaurus idle sounds, but it's the concept that boosts it here. Baryonychus isn't some brightly colored variant or elder member of the Baryonyx species, it's its own dinosaur. A dinosaur you can't hunt by itself. You can't select Baryonychus from the main menu. It exists only in the wild as a random chance encounter, completely separate from its larger quadrupedal counterpart. That is such a novel concept and really freaking innovative for a Carnivores mod. And despite how middle of the road the dinosaur is in terms of design and sounds, the concept alone propels the 2 berries up to top tier status. Now, Fallen Kings' Baryonyx is getting a new model in a future update, This is, what, the 4th new Baryonyx model? And this one seems very Todd Marshall-y to me for some reason, so we'll have to wait and see how that version stacks up to this one. But for now, Baryonyx earns its keep in the number 2 spot. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the number 1 dinosaur in Carnivores Fallen Kings, in my opinion anyway, is the tiny, feathery, pack-hunting Tanicoligrius. This little carnivore is a brand new dinosaur that debuted in the most recent beta release of Fallen Kings, beta 1.95, and I fell in love with it immediately. Firstly, it replaced the Balur, which I think is a substantial upgrade. Its calls are perfect for this type of dinosaur, very soft and warbly, but still sinister. The animations are slick and fluid, and the design, oh my gosh, I love the design of this dinosaur. The grasping hands, the glow-in-the-dark eyes, the canon-style incorporation of feathers. This was the first dinosaur in Fallen Kings that I thought felt solid, original, and like a worthy mainstay. If all the dinosaurs in the mod got the same level of care and treatment as Tanicoligrius, this will be a top-tier mod for sure. A lot of the time, they'll even accidentally clump up into little packs, and their hitboxes have been significantly reduced in size, so hunters have a fighting chance when taking on an entire pack. And I'd love to see the newly unlocked pack hunting AI implemented on these guys. What's more, Tanicoligrius is one of the dinosaurs that comes in an alternate version, the pack leader variant, which is larger and more green in coloration, as opposed to the normal variant's dark pink. All of these components come together to make Tanicoligrius a phenomenal dinosaur. I know Baryonyx is, or was, the flagship dinosaur, and Torvosaurus is the apex predator, but when I think of Fallen Kings, I think of Tanicoligrius. It feels so complete and characterized, and for that, I think Tanicoligrius earns its number 1 spot. Alright, so there you go guys, those are my thoughts on the dinosaurs in Fallen Kings ranked from least favorite to favorite. Now I do want to clarify because I'm sure I sounded way more critical than usual in this video than when I usually talk about mod topics, you know, when everything's my favorite carnivores dinosaur ever and just unhinged positivity, so that when I actually do provide some criticism, some people completely shut down and scream at me to stop being so biased and negative and complaining all the time. So, as I've stated before, any feedback I provide for mods is never to be mean or nasty, and if it does come across that way, I sincerely apologize. I provide criticism because I love these mods and the people working on them and want to see them be the absolute best they can be. So if this is your favorite mod out there, that's great. Naturally, it's one of mine too, and I just want to be able to see it stand up there with the best of the best. And as always with these videos, these are my purely subjective, personal thoughts and opinions anyway. If you agree, that's awesome. If you disagree, that's awesome. But I want to hear from you guys. What does your Fallen Kings dinosaur list look like? What is your favorite dinosaur? Your least favorite dinosaur? If it's not Cardiodon, you're objectively wrong. But be sure to let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think. And thanks as always for watching guys, I genuinely appreciate all of your support and patience with me on this channel. You are all the best, and I will see you guys next time. Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate it, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you do enjoy the Carnivores games and Carnivores content on YouTube and want to help support this channel, you can do so at patreon.com/sauriantarget. There's a link down below in the description of this video. As many of you guys know, this YouTube channel is not my job and it takes a lot of my time to work on videos. But I love doing it for you guys, and every little bit donated helps me dedicate more time to making you guys the best Carnivores content on YouTube. Thank you all for everything you do. I love you all, you are all the best. And I will see you guys next time.